Welcome to another edition of Altitude Advantage. I'm your host and team reporter, Elisa Hernandez. Across the table, we have our lead writer on DenverBroncos.com. We are celebrating Dub Day in the podcast studio. Nice. Because the Broncos got a big win on Monday Night Football against the Cincinnati Bengals. We're going to dive into that. Instant reactions, talk about the offense, talk about the defense, the matchup that was of the Defensive Player of the Year going against the Triple Crown winner. That was a fun one on Monday Night Football. And just the overall takeaways as we head into this short week before the team travels to Philadelphia to face the Super Bowl defending champions. So let's start with your initial thoughts. Dub Day is excited to celebrate a special Tuesday edition of it.
That's right.
What were your takeaways, as we kick this show off?
Yeah, I think the main thing, and I think we touched on it a little bit last night, was just that they did what they were supposed to do. And that's no disrespect, obviously, to the Cincinnati Bengals, but they have a backup quarterback playing right now. The Broncos at home needed a win in a big way. Their defense stepped up big time. Their offense put the game away when they had the chance. And I think we've seen over the last few weeks that the Broncos hadn't been able to take advantage of those chances. When they were winning, when they were leading, they weren't able to extend the lead. 0 of 7 on drives previously with a chance to push the lead to 2 scores. Hadn't been able to do it. They did it last night, and they did it again, pushed the lead to 21-3 before halftime. Obviously, add another touchdown in the second half. But I think we mentioned it last night that there's only so many games in the NFL that ultimately are not going to come down to one score, that are not going to be a nail-biter in the fourth quarter, that are not going to be decided by 1 or 2 plays. And it's impressive when you're able to put a team away like that.
Yeah.
No matter what their quarterback situation is, no matter how many penalties they have, the fact that the Broncos were able to win in such dominant fashion, I think shows you what this team can be when it is clicking on all cylinders, and certainly still a lot to improve upon the penalties. As Sean Payton mentioned, there's still too many of those. Some drops. Bo Nix obviously had the end zone interception, though, as we mentioned. It was a 4th down play, so he's just trying to be aggressive there in that moment and try to make something happen.
Yeah.
But despite not being perfect, we saw what a high-performing Broncos team could do. It looked a lot closer to what we expected coming into the year when we heard about their aspirations for a division and for more.
Yeah.
I think we continue to see this team get better, and we hear Sean Payton talk about the race to improve. That's still ongoing, but certainly through 4 weeks, you start to get a sense of what you have. And maybe when fans hear that, the race to improve it sounds like just talk. But I think we've seen over the last 3 years with Sean Payton, it is not just talk. This is a real thing that happens with teams that he coaches, that over the course of the first 3-4 weeks, these teams get better. They improve. It doesn't mean they're perfect, but they take strides. And I think we saw the Broncos take a big step last night. And you just run through the stat sheet, and it was domination. 20 more first downs. The Broncos were 8 of 14 on third down, started 6 of 8. The Bengals, 2 of 11. They ran 1 play in Broncos territory after the first drive, and it didn't even count because of a penalty. I believe that Jake Browning, after that first drive, had like 90 total passing yards. I mentioned all the penalties.
Yeah.
Jamar Chase didn't have a catch when Pat Surtain was on him. Bo Nix throws for 300 yards. JK Dobbins runs for 100 yards. First time since 2015 that the Broncos have had a 300-yard passer and 100-yard rusher in the same game. Bo Nix, the most passing yards in the AFC this week. I mean, no matter where you look on this stat sheet, it was
stacked.
It was just heavily slanted in the Broncos' favor, and it kind of looked like, okay, this is what you can do when you play to your potential. And I think back to what Sean Payton says a lot, which is you're going to play in bigger games, you're going to play tougher opponents, and that's certainly true, but you've got to take care of business still against opponents that you need to beat. And this was one of those cases. This was one of those situations, and the Broncos did it in a very convincing fashion. 512 yards of total offense, nearly doubled the number of plays that the Bengals ran. I mean, this was an all-around really good win.
You look at the run game, you look at the pass game. I think what impressed me the most and had me the most excited was how long these drives were. A lot of the guys after the game, in a joking manner, they were like, Well, I'm tired. Like Quinn Miners even said, he was like, yeah, I'm tired. I was out there for a while. And he was like, but that's what we want. We want to be able to extend drives, drain the clock, and play that time management game. And it's all about possession, especially as you're trying to just close out. You know, when I talked to JK Dobbins after the game, he mentioned that this was a game where they just wanted to finish. That was the high focus of it. Like, put this game away. Let's finish it off. And let's get out of here with a win. And that's exactly what they did. I feel like they did it in dramatic fashion, as we have our stats in front of us of just the 10 possession. What the defense was able to do, just stall out the Bengals offense completely. But I think it was very impressive to just see them extend drives and really eat up as much time on the clock as possible, because that's something that I feel they really wanted to focus on going into this week, and it's going to serve them well as they face future tough opponents.
Yeah, last week, I think the 3-and-out percentage was too high for the Broncos, and then last night, like you mentioned, the drives, they were able to sustain them. After that first drive, the initial 3-and-out, the Broncos had at least one first down on every other drive. They had multiple first downs on all but one drive, 5 drives with at least 4 first downs. All but one of those ended in a touchdown. The Broncos were 3 of 4 in the red zone. That's a number that, as we talk about this Eagles game this week, is going to be really important. The Eagles have the 3rd-ranked red zone defense. We've seen the Broncos. I believe they're 10th in red zone offense right now. They're going to have to be good there. They were against the Bengals, and I think that's, with the exception maybe of the penalty yardage, and I think you heard Joe Buck on the national broadcast basically say that a lot of things were being called that maybe he didn't think needed to be called. So there were a lot of flags on both sides, but maybe not every, but most of the statistical categories were direct reflections of improvement from a week ago, whether it was total yardage, the 3rd down percentage. I believe the Broncos were 2 of 13 last week against the Chargers. They were 8 of 14 against Cincinnati. That red zone percentage, 3 of 4. Yeah. Last week we saw the Broncos have that 1st and goal at the 5, struggle to get it in there. We saw them at the end of the first half against Indianapolis struggle to score a touchdown with 90 seconds to go. In this case, they get the ball with 1 minute and 9 seconds left. Bo Nix drives them 80 yards, throws a beautiful pass to Marvin Mims to get him in position, throws another great pass to Cortland Sutton after a defensive penalty, kind of extends the drive. Yards per rush, total rushing yards. I mean, everything was an improvement on a week ago. And, I think some of those numbers are going to get inflated just because you had the ball so much and the defense played so well and gave it right back to you. But I also think there was a concerted effort for balance offensively. You saw Bo Nix hit a bunch of underneath throws, kind of those intermediate crossing routes. I mean, especially on the first touchdown drive, it was like Franklin was open, didn't catch it, but was open. Troutman's open on a similar route. Cortland's open coming across the field. They tore them up with that sort of
balanced attack.
And I think you saw, hey, here's what Sean Payton can do from a game plan standpoint of just getting after a team. But, yeah, from an offensive standpoint, obviously the most complete of the year. It's not the best defense they'll face all year, but they do have a guy like Trey Hendrickson, and he was entirely quiet. A big shout-out to Garrett Bowles and Mike McGlinchey when he blocked him for keeping him quiet. But this was a game that the Broncos, after the initial, I would say, 10 minutes, the Bengals have a drive, Broncos have a drive, they go 3-and-out and they're trailing, and it looks like Cincinnati has this big, maybe has a chance to extend their lead, but a penalty forces them to punt. And from there, Denver took control. And again, you have to be able to do that and take advantage of your chances because, look, we saw in the Colts game, I thought the Broncos had some chances to take advantage, put the game away. They don't do it, and it ends up coming back to bite them. And so the fact that, say that that the Bengals convert a 4th down there and they go up 10-0, right, or even 6-0, you're just looking at an entirely different ball game. And instead, Broncos are able to, with the help of a penalty, they get a stop, they score, get another stop, put this team away, and that kind of stands out to me. Is like the Broncos didn't mess around here. They just
took care of business.
From the time we got to the midway through the second quarter, really, it was heavily tilted in Denver's favor.
I think I go back to that play from Marvin Mims, and the unsung hero on that one was Pat Bryant, who just delivered a monster block to allow Mims to kind of get that angle and score. And if you missed it on social media, our social team got a really good reaction from both of them on that play. But I think Pat said it. Everyone said it's good. It was just good complementary football. Like everybody knew their positions. The game plan was set. They executed it, I feel, at the highest level. And, a lot of people in the Twitter space, as we like to call it, were like, it was almost like they didn't notice how efficient JK Dobbins was, right? But it's like he was able to chip away at this Bengals defense. And as you mentioned, get over 100 yards. RJ Harvey gets his first touchdown of his young career on a huge touchdown. But just that tandem of the run game I thought was very effective, and just the way that they were able to find those gaps and continue to, again, extend the drives because they're great to see, and we always want them to see. Please have more of them. But you don't always need the 50-yard burst or 25-yard burst. Sometimes those 8, 5, 7-yard bursts are exactly what you need to then have your young quarterback find his go-to receiver and make an even bigger play.
Yeah, the running game was really good last night. I think it's been good this season, really.
Mm-hmm.
Each week, J.K. Dobbins has increased his rushing yard total. He's a guy that, listen, the thing with him has never been talent, right? Like he flashed last year in L.A. He was great in Baltimore. Unfortunately for him, it's been injuries, and knock on wood, he stayed healthy so far, and that's been great to see. I think having a balance of those guys and not it just being all J.K. probably helps to try to preserve him throughout the season. But he is a guy that, as he keeps running, seems to get better. And he mentioned that hey, his second carry, his third carry, he builds momentum. And the thing about the run game is, like, somebody was talking in the press box about, he could get to 100 yards. And I looked at the box score, and he had like 50 yards. And we were in the fourth quarter, and I kind of was like, well, I don't know that I see that happening. Mm-hmm. But the thing about the run game is it often seems to be like you chip away a little bit through the first half, through the third quarter, and then especially when you have a lead late in the game, like some of those 2-3 yard runs, the 1 or 2 yard runs become 4 or 5, and the 4 or 5 yard runs become 10 to 15, and it's like, is somebody going to step up, and is a corner going to step up and tackle J.K. Dobbins when you're trailing by 10 points and it's late in the game and you've been playing a physical football team and they've been on the field for 80 snaps, right? Like, that's the other thing is when you stay on the field and you increase these drives, defense gets more tired. And that's something that I'm sure we'll see Philadelphia try to do this week, is wear the Broncos defense out with the run game. And we'll get to that because DJ Jones is confident in this defensive line. Mm-hmm. But before you know it, Dobbins is at 70. Now he's at 80. Now he's at 85. And then, boom, he breaks one for 16, 17 yards to get over the 100-yard mark. Mm-hmm. And it might feel like I could see how you could watch it and be like, well, that happened in the fourth quarter. It was late in the game. But I think that's just kind of the nature of the run game for the most part across the league is you see it start to build momentum, and then late in a game, that's how you ride out a game. That's how you close a game in the playoffs like that. And J.K. Dobbins, he's got some juice to him. I think he's in the top 5 in the NFL right now in rushing yards, and he's got a high percentage of carries that have gone for more than 10 yards with the Broncos. I can't remember exactly what the stat is, but it was some obscene percentage of J.K. Dobbins runs that have gone for 10 yards since he's been here. And that's the difference between just like picking up an easy 10 yards on a run play, but that versus like a 1 or 2 yard gain and being in 2nd and 8 is a huge thing. He's been really fun to watch and a great addition to this team. So we'll see how it keeps going. Obviously, against the Eagles, I think you're going to have to run the ball well to stay in that game. It's going to be a grinded out physical. Who knows if there's going to be weather? Like, it could be a gross game. It feels like a J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey type game to me. But you mentioned Dobbins and Bo, I thought was better, right? And closer to what we saw at times during training camp, saw last year. He looked comfortable. He was making quick decisions. He was setting his feet for the most part and ripping some throws, whether it was to Mims or Sutton at the end of the half. He had one to Franklin that he couldn't quite connect on, but it was a great throw, I thought. And he just, I thought, stepped up in a big way. And you might look at 326 yards and think, oh, well, it's not 400 yards, but because like that.
Whoever's thinking that.
Well, that used to be like people used to, for whatever reason, the number of 300-yard games has gone way down this year. I think only like 10 guys maybe have done it all season, and he was the only one in the AFC this week. So pretty remarkable performance from him there. I thought he bounced back in a big way. Cortland Sutton continues to be really good. I think you're starting to see this offense and what it can be. Now, with the exception of the red zone, they also avoided turnovers. There was just one turnover. They've got to play clean football, got to stay in the third and short. All those things matter and maybe are amplified more when you play a really good team like you'll see this weekend against the Eagles. But a lot of encouraging things, I thought, from this Denver offense on Monday night.
Speaking of Dobbins, Evan Ingram, they asked him about just the energy that Dobbins brings, and Ingram was quick to say, you know, it's not just what he does on the field, but it's off the field, the energy, the excitement that he brings to this club. And Jonathan Cooper spoke on him as well, just saying, like, he's one of our guys, but he's the guy that we needed here. Someone that's physical, he's tough, he's going to push through, he's going to look out for the younger guys. He's such a vital asset to this running game. And as we mentioned, RJ Harvey getting his first official touchdown. He's up for NFL Rookie of the Week. So fans, go vote. But what did you see from him and just the way that his touchdown, just a walk in the park, right? It's probably one of the easier ones for him.
Yeah, he's contributing in the pass game and the run game. Thought there were a couple times he broke some tackles and picked up yardage. He's going to continue to be a big part of this offense, I think. And you see him and JK Dobbins. The snap counts were virtually equal, I believe. And you saw them kind of alternate series as opposed to every other snap or certain number of snaps. So that helped them, I think, get in a rhythm, find a groove a little bit. And yeah, Harvey, I think, is going to continue to play a role. It's a long season. You're going to need both of these guys. We're at the first quarter poll. You still got 3 quarters of the season, of the regular season to go, and then hopefully get some playoff games as well. But they're going to need these guys. But I just think big picture, the fact that you're starting to see kind of what this offense can be, what its identity can be, that is encouraging, especially after some of the recent performances. Like this is closer to where they want to be. Now, it's not a finished product, and Sean Payton talked about that Tuesday of, hey, the focus has to quickly be on Philadelphia. But offensively, I think you took a step here against the Bengals. And then defensively, like, again, you're going to face tougher opponents. You're going to play in bigger games, but you can only play who you play, and they did exactly what they needed to do. They just kind of suffocated this Bengals offense.
Yeah,
they did.
Good way to say it.
Jamar Chase, I think, had 20-something yards. He didn't have a catch when Pat Surtain was guarding him in man coverage. I believe he has 3 or 4 catches for 34 yards total in the 3 or 4 games that Surtain has played against him. Like, Surtain, for some reason, and maybe it's the Alabama-LSU connection, I don't know, but Surtain currently is playing him as well as anybody. And then Riley Moss, too. Sean Payton talked about him, said he thought he played fantastic going up against T. Higgins. Gave up a couple early ones, but then he battled, and he fought, and he's a physical receiver. And Riley, I thought, held his own, and whether it was the third down and completion that he kind of forced early in the game that set up the initial field goal, whether it was some of the sideline routes, Riley Moss played a heck of a game, and Sean Payton said that it was one of his better games he's seen him play. So Riley Moss has taken a little bit of heat from the Twitterverse, and for him to respond like that, I was impressed.
Riley Moss definitely held his own, and Nick Bonito, before he even started his post-game, scrum in the locker room, he was asked a question. He was like, I'm going to get to your question in a second, but let me give, the flowers to Riley Moss. And I think when you see that grit and that determination from your teammates, it makes you want to play harder. Pat had even mentioned that seeing the emotion that Riley Moss was showing on the field got him hyped, and it made him want to play harder. And you brought up Jamar Chase and Pat, and a lot of insights came in after Monday Night Football's game. It said Jamar Chase was held 23 yards for the 4th fewest in a game in his career, so 23 yards. And then 2 of his 4 lowest yardage totals in his career have now come against the Broncos.
Yeah. And I don't even think those 23 yards. I think one of those catches for 8 yards or something came.
That's like
Pat
his total.
Yeah. Area.
Yes, and actually, to support your claim there, Pat Surtain, according to Next Gen Stats, allowed 1 reception for 8 yards across 13 coverage matchups with Jamar Chase, including 0 receptions on 10 matchups in man coverage. Surtain now matched up against Chase on 54 career routes and has allowed 4 receptions for 35 yards.
It's really impressive. And Jamar Chase might be the best receiver in the NFL.
Facts.
Right? Like triple
crown
reigning winner.
Yes, reigning
triple crown winner. Obviously doesn't have Burrow, so that's part of it. But I think we saw last year he had Burrow and Pat played just as well. So big deal there, big deal with Riley Moss. And then up front, Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper just continue to impress with how fast their get-off is.
Yeah.
DJ Jones said on Tuesday that the one play at the end of the first half or in the first half where Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper kind of meet at the quarterback.
Yeah.
That they're like the little Spider-Man meme where they're pointing at each other and it's like, oh,
wait, you're here?
We're both here. And yeah, Bonito said that. He was like, I'm coming around the edge thinking there's my sack. And then I see old Cooper and he's coming to take my sack.
Yeah.
But Nick, I believe a career high in pressure rate. I think he leads since Next Gen Stats started tracking pressure rate. I believe Nick's is the highest through 4 weeks of any, like since they started tracking it. So it's like 31, 32%. Basically 1 in every 3 snaps, he's pressuring the quarterback. And especially at home, when you have the crowd noise and you put him in tough situations and the play clock is going down and you can kind of time the jump a little bit, man, he's fast. And his 4.5 sacks, we mentioned it last night, the most in the first 4 weeks of a season since Von Miller in 2021. And I do think it's reasonable that, especially with a 17th game, and again, knock on wood, he stays healthy and you keep playing at this level, but it wouldn't surprise me if we get toward the end of the year and we're at least talking about, hey, can Nick break the all-time single-season franchise record in sacks? Like, if he averages a sack a week, we're going to be right there. And so he's a heck of a player. And again, credit to George Payton and the staff for getting him extended before the season started. That was a big deal. And he's been really good. Cooper's been really good. And then Zach Allen is just getting, like, there was one play he's quadruple teamed.
Yeah. I think I think that was like one of the sacks. Like the Broncos.
I think it might have been the one where they did the Spider-Man point.
Yeah.
But, and then Nick did the 6-7 thing, which I don't understand that at all. I don't even know if that's appropriate for me to say on a podcast. I think it is.
I literally saw a comment and it said, "I am a 42-year-old father of 2. Can someone please explain what this celebration is? Thank you in advance."
Basically how I feel. I'm not quite 42. I've got another decade to go, and I don't have any children, but I also have no idea what that's about.
Well, going back to that play, I mean,
you're not going to tell me. Okay, we'll keep going. No, it's fine.
Because it's like you gotta just know.
Okay, I'm not going to know. So I hope he picks a different.
It's nonsense. It's
okay.
Really what it is.
Okay.
It is not. It's supposed to not mean anything. It's kind of like in SpongeBob when he's like, "What's funnier than 5?" and he's like 6, and he's like, "What's funnier than 6?" Like 7, and then they just start laughing because I'm a child and I think that's funny.
Okay, well.
But I'm just saying, like, it's meant to just be nonsense, and Nick is very plugged in. But when you look at that play in particular, the Broncos rushed only 3, as you mentioned. You got 4 players on Zach, which is just insane.
Poor Zach.
But then your quarterback. You think that is a good defense against or protection for your quarterback, and this defense just is all over them. I mean, when you look at the possessions, they give up the field goal to start the game, and then it was punt, 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 end of the half, punt, 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 punt. I mean, you keep them to 3 points. You don't let them cross the 50 after the field goal. I mean, it was just such a dominant performance from them. JFM gets in on the action. Nick Bonito, as you mentioned, has a great game, and I think you look at the way that they limited this team completely. And just they mentioned, as great as this was, it's still not. I feel like everybody, they're like, it's still not the best that we can be. And so when you think about how scary it's going to be when they actually feel that they're at where they need to be, it's going to be a long day for the opposing quarterbacks.
Yeah, and one of the places where the Broncos have been really good, and I know we're now 4 games in and a field goal on the opening drive of all 4, but Denver's red zone defense has been really impressive and number 1 in the NFL right now in terms of allowing touchdowns down there. Teams are basically 25%. That's the rate they're scoring touchdowns when they get inside the red zone. For context, the worst team in the NFL is allowing touchdowns on almost 90% of their red zone, which that feels wild.
What team is that?
But I'm not gonna blast them like that. But
so you're not gonna tell me?
Nearly 2/3 of the league. Actually, here's a stat. Everybody except for the top 8 teams is allowing at least a 50% scoring rate. And Denver is allowing 25%. The Chargers are 2. Philadelphia, who the Broncos will face this weekend, is 3rd. And so that'll be, we'll talk all about that game, but that's kind of one of the early things that I'll look at is, hey, you go against a Vic Fangio defense, go against a Vance Joseph defense, it's possible that opportunities will be limited in this game down in the red zone. Can you capitalize when you're down there? That's going to be a big thing for the Broncos. And, I think the other interesting thing or the thing of note about this game is that, like, and part of it is a short week, but I think there is this notion or this element or like just this sense I have, like, listening to Sean Payton talk, listening to DJ Jones and Adam Troutman talk, that, like, we're done with this one already.
Yeah.
And normally you get the 24 hours to celebrate, and if it's a particularly big win, maybe it spills over a little bit more. The players are ready to move on. And I don't know if that's because, hey, you expect to win this game, you expect to play well, you know that you're going to play in bigger games. Is it because you've got Philadelphia, the defending champs, coming up? It could be a little bit of all of that and the short week added into it, but the focus is clearly on what's ahead of them, and not London afterwards. Just this Sunday, they've got a big opportunity against Philadelphia, and we'll go through like all the keys to the matchup and all that. But I think one thing that stands out, a couple things that stand out. One, Adam Troutman talking about this is a measuring stick game, not in terms of what to show the fans or the national media or even other teams, but hey, we've talked all offseason about our goals and we've worked hard, and like this is a chance to see, are we going in the right direction? Are we where we need to be? In Philadelphia, they won the Super Bowl last year. They won another Super Bowl a few years before that. They're like in the mix a lot, and this is a team that's going to be in the postseason. Later this winter. This is a team that if you can go to Philadelphia and can compete against this team and get a win there, like I don't think it's a big statement
because it's tough to play in Philly.
It is tough to play. It's one of the best environments, and I think if you go there and you can compete, you probably tell yourself like we can compete anywhere. And the Broncos know that. Like they've gone to Arrowhead and played well and come within a blocked field goal of upsetting the Chiefs in their home stadium, but to go to that, at least like you have the divisional familiarity when you're playing a team you don't see a lot, and the Broncos haven't played the Eagles since 2021. There's some unknown. It's more about how are we game planning, how are we scouting. Maybe you're not as familiar with the personnel in terms of playing against them. So this will be a big test. And then the other element to that is DJ Jones saying, hey, we know they have Saquon Barkley. We know they have a ridiculous offensive line. We know they run the ball well. We know they throw the ball well. We know they play good defense. But like DJ was also saying, I believe in our guys too, though.
Yeah.
Like we've got a good D line, and I'm excited to give them our best and get their best and kind of see how everything unfolds. So there's kind of this delicate line of like, it's a measuring stick because it tells you something about this team.
Yeah.
But there's also not fear, and they're not like in awe of this team because they won the Super Bowl. Like from talking to DJ and hearing from DJ, he believes in the Broncos just as much as in their ability to compete, with the same level of respect he has for the Eagles. So measuring stick, but it's not like, oh, we're in awe of this team. Right? Like I think back to 2007 when New England was undefeated and went through the regular season undefeated. And there were teams that would get ready to play them, and you could tell they like psyched themselves out to the point where they convinced themselves they were going to lose before they even played them, just because of how good that offense was. And maybe the same was true for the Broncos back in like 2013, when they had that high-flying offense of teams that maybe you knew you didn't really have a chance when you walked in the door. The Broncos believe, especially defensively, hearing from DJ, they believe in what they can do and what this unit can do. So there's none of that kind of like predetermined sense of what's going to happen. Like they believe in themselves. They're focused on this one, and it's a big chance for them. If they can get a win this weekend, again, it's not one that I think like before the year you count on, but
can steal one.
But if the Broncos play the way they did against the Bengals, defensively, offensively, capitalize in the red zone, keep short, down in distances on defense, hold them into long third downs, don't let them get into that tush-push scenario, which now has like offshoots where they're pitching it to Saquon out of the backfield. Like if you can
got creative with it.
They did. Like, but if you can show up and play with these guys and beat these guys, this would be a huge defining moment in your season.
I think you nailed it on the head when you said that this team is not in all. They obviously have respect, but I think that ties back to the mindset that Sean Payton has built into this culture here of what happened last year doesn't matter, right? Like everyone is starting from scratch. We are, and that means the rest of the league is, and you have to approach each matchup like that. Like you can't, yes, you can respect and understand that they have a very complete team, but as you mentioned, like to DJ, he's like, I like going against teams like that. I like going against teams that are categorically or statistically or publicly just seen as the best of the best and giving them, because just as you mentioned, they haven't seen the Eagles that in a long time. Well, the Eagles haven't seen the Broncos either. And this is a brand new look Broncos as well. So I think when you look at the challenge of everything and you saw how Riley Moss stepped up against the Bengals, the way that Pat is just dominant. And I think given, and we've talked about this, like just like the overreaction of the game that he had against the Colts, but like for him to come back and have such a shutdown game against Jamar Chase, he's going to have his hands full too with just the receivers that they have on their side. You have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. So it's like you have these other playmakers that the Broncos, I feel like they're just ready for the challenge of it. And I think they already celebrated this game last night. I'm not going to say flushed it because they all mentioned that it was a very big confidence boost, especially when you're going on back-to-back road trips. But I think with that game against the Bengals, you're now like, it's almost like you refocus yourself on like, okay, this is what we're capable of when we do all these things right. And we still didn't even do all the things right. So let's fix those things. And Sean Payton had mentioned that like they would be foolish to not correct those things despite this being a short week. So it's going to be a fun matchup on Sunday.
Yeah, and we'll talk way more about it, but this is it's a chance more than anything. It's an opportunity to, and even if it is just to yourselves, to send a message of, hey, we belong in this conversation, or, you know, we can compete with these guys. We're in this conversation with some of these teams. You know, you had these close, heartbreaking losses. Yeah. Hopefully you find a way to battle one out. Maybe you win. Maybe you're on the right side of this one. And we've seen the Broncos over the last couple of years. No one gave them a chance going to Tampa last year. Nobody gave them a chance going to Arrowhead. And I know that they lost that game, but they were right in it and had a chance at the end. Nobody gave them a chance going to Buffalo on Monday night a couple of years ago, and they won that game. So one thing we've seen under Sean Payton is like they're typically ready for these games, especially the big ones. You know, there's only been a couple. Obviously, the Ravens won a year ago, like kind of got out of hand, and Buffalo in the playoffs, but they were in that game till late in the third quarter.
Yeah,
like, we've seen this team be ready for big games. We'll talk a lot more about it, but I'd imagine the same will be true this weekend. And yeah, even though we're just less than 24 hours removed from Monday Night Football, I'm like ready to see these guys play Philadelphia, because we talked about it with the Chargers. Hey, this could be the defining win so far since Bo Nix became the quarterback, and really, I think you could argue maybe outside of this might supplant like beating the Chiefs at home and ending that streak. You could argue, you know, which one was bigger, but maybe just where this team is right now and the goals it has might feel bigger. So maybe we talk about that on Thursday or Friday or whenever we record next of kind of what this would mean. But yeah, I'm excited to see it.
I know Broncos Country is excited to see it. And Broncos Country, if you missed any of our post-game coverage from Monday Night Football, because it was a late one by the time that day game was over, make sure you head over to denverbroncos.com. We have our instant analysis there. We have our locker room roundup. We have our interview with JK Dobbins. So much content for you guys. So if you guys were asleep and didn't see it yet, make sure you guys go ahead and check it out. But we appreciate you guys tuning in to another episode of Altitude Advantage. Once again, I'm your host and team reporter, Lisa Hernandez. Across the table, as always, our lead writer on denverbroncos.com. Make sure you guys keep up with us as we get ready to enjoy this one for the next few minutes and then change our mindset to week 5.